5:40 hours, North Atlantic Ocean. A pale blue dawn stretched across the cold waters of the North Atlantic. The ocean looked calm from above. Long waves rolled slowly across the gray surface, reflecting the early morning light. But far below that peaceful horizon, two of the world's most powerful naval forces were quietly moving into position. For weeks, intelligence agencies had been tracking unusual Russian naval activity leaving ports in the Arctic. Several warships had sailed westward through the Barents Sea. Now those vessels were entering the open Atlantic, and NATO surveillance systems were watching closely. 5:46 hours, first radar contact. Inside a NATO maritime patrol aircraft, flying high above the clouds, radar operators were scanning hundreds of kilometers of ocean. Their systems could detect ships far beyond the horizon. Suddenly, a new signal appeared. At first it seemed ordinary, just another ship moving across international waters. But as the radar signature became clearer, the onboard identification system updated. The operator leaned forward in his seat. This was not an ordinary vessel. 5:48 hours. Identification confirmed. Within seconds, satellite databases confirmed the contact. The ship was a Russian-guided missile frigate equipped with advanced long-range strike weapons. But what truly caught the attention of NATO analysts was something else. This ship had recently been upgraded. It was now capable of launching 3 M22 Zircon hypersonic missiles. Those missiles were among the fastest anti-ship weapons ever developed. Traveling at speeds above Mach 8, they could cross hundreds of kilometers in minutes. At those speeds, defending ships would have almost no time to react, and the vessel carrying them was now heading toward waters regularly patrolled by U.S. naval forces. 5:55 hours. Surveillance expands. The patrol aircraft transmitted the contact report to NATO Maritime Command. Within minutes, additional sensors began focusing on the Russian ship. Satellite cameras adjusted their orbit paths. Long-range radar stations in northern Europe began tracking the vessel's movement. Analysts watched as the ship continued westward. Its course was steady, its speed moderate, but the direction raised concern because several hundred kilometers ahead, a powerful American naval force was operating in the same region. 6:05 hours. The U.S. Carrier Strike Group. Deep in the Atlantic, the aircraft carrier USS Dwight D. Eisenhower was conducting routine operations. The carrier was surrounded by a powerful protective formation. Two Arleigh Burke-class destroyers sailed on the outer defensive perimeter. A Ticonderoga-class cruiser served as the strike group's air defense commander. Together, their radar systems formed a massive detection network capable of monitoring threats across hundreds of kilometers. Fighter aircraft sat ready on the carrier's flight deck. Helicopters conducted anti-submarine patrols. Everything about the formation looked routine, but that routine would soon change. 6:12 hours. Russian course adjustment. Back in the NATO patrol aircraft, operators noticed something unusual. The Russian warship had slightly adjusted its course. It was now moving directly toward the area where the U.S. carrier group was operating. The change was subtle, but military analysts immediately understood the significance. Ships do not alter course randomly in open ocean patrols. Every movement has purpose, and this one suggested the Russian vessel might be intentionally approaching the American fleet. 6:18 hours, command centers alerted. The information reached NATO command centers within minutes. Large digital maps displayed the situation. Blue icons represented NATO and U.S. ships. Red icons represented Russian naval contacts. The distance between them was slowly shrinking. Naval encounters like this were not unusual. Warships from rival nations often shadowed each other in international waters, but the presence of hypersonic missile capability made this encounter far more serious because the Zircon missile was designed specifically for one purpose: destroying large naval targets like aircraft carriers. 6:26 hours, U.S. destroyers move. The commander of the American Carrier Strike Group ordered 2 destroyers to move ahead of the formation. Their mission was simple: intercept and monitor the approaching Russian ship. The destroyers increased speed and adjusted course. Their powerful Aegis radar systems began scanning the area with maximum sensitivity. Helicopters lifted from their flight decks and began flying observation patterns over the ocean. Within minutes, the Russian warship appeared clearly on their radar screens. 6:34 hours. Visual contact. A naval helicopter soon reached visual range. From several kilometers away, the crew observed the Russian vessel cutting through the waves. Its deck was lined with missile launch cells. Large radar arrays rotated slowly above the bridge. Everything about the ship reflected its purpose. It was a warship built for high-intensity naval combat. The helicopter transmitted live video back to the destroyer. Inside the Combat Information Center, American sailors watched carefully. So far, the Russian ship had taken no hostile action, but but its approach continued. 6:42 hours. Electronic signals detected. Electronic intelligence sensors aboard the destroyer began detecting emissions from the Russian vessel. Radar systems were active. Communication antennas transmitted encrypted signals. This was normal for a warship operating at sea, but one signal drew immediate attention. A powerful radar beam briefly swept across the American destroyer. Operators checked the frequency. Then the room fell silent. 06:44 hours. Targeting radar. The radar signal matched the profile of a missile targeting system. Targeting radar is different from normal search radar. Search radar scans wide areas. Targeting radar focuses precisely on a specific object, and right now, that object appeared to be an American warship. Inside the destroyer's command center, warning indicators flashed across the displays. The Russian ship had just locked its targeting radar onto the U.S. fleet. 6:50 hours. Tension rising. The report was immediately sent to the Carrier Strike Group commander. Within seconds, readiness levels increased across every American ship. Missile defense systems were powered up. Radar tracking systems switched to high-precision mode. Fighter pilots were ordered to stand by near their aircraft. The ocean remained calm, but everyone aboard the ships understood the danger, because when targeting radar locks onto a vessel, it usually means one thing: a missile launch could follow. 6:58 hours. Hypersonic threat intelligence officers quickly reviewed the capabilities of the Zircon missile. If launched, the missile would travel faster than 8 times the speed of sound. That meant it could reach the Carrier Strike Group in less than 3 minutes. At those speeds, traditional reaction timelines disappear. Detection, tracking, interception, all must happen in seconds. Even the most advanced naval defenses could be overwhelmed. 7:04 hours. Radio contact. An American destroyer transmitted a radio message to the Russian ship. The message was calm and professional. It requested clarification regarding the targeting radar signal. Several moments passed. Then a response arrived. The Russian captain replied that his vessel was conducting routine naval operations in international waters. No explanation was given regarding the radar lock. The communication ended there, but the targeting radar remained active. 7:12 hours. Fleet commander's decision. Inside the aircraft carrier's command center, the strike group commander studied the situation. He had 2 choices: escalate immediately or continue monitoring and hope the Russian ship disengaged. Starting a confrontation in international waters could trigger a diplomatic crisis, but ignore 7:18 hours. Radar alert. Suddenly, the destroyer's radar screens flashed with a new warning. Sensors detected a powerful heat signature from the Russian warship. Then another and another. The signals were unmistakable. Vertical launch systems were opening. Something was about to happen. 7:19 hours. Missile launch. A bright plume erupted from the deck of the Russian ship. Then another. Within seconds, multiple missiles shot upward into the sky. Tracking computers immediately began calculating their speed. The numbers climbed rapidly. Mach 4, Mach 6, Mach 8. The system confirmed the worst possible scenario. The missiles were Zircon hypersonic weapons, and their trajectory pointed directly toward the U.S. fleet. 7:20 hours. Seconds to react. Alarms blared across the Carrier Strike Group. Radar systems locked onto the incoming missiles. Interceptor systems prepared to fire. Fighter pilots sprinted across the carrier deck. Every sailor on every ship knew what was happening. The Russian warship had just fired hypersonic missiles at the American fleet, and the next 90 seconds would decide everything. 7:20 hours. Alarms across the fleet. The first warning tone echoed through every compartment of the American destroyer. Inside the Combat Information Center, sailors stared at glowing radar screens as 3 bright icons raced across the digital map. Each icon represented a hypersonic missile. Each one was closing the distance at a speed that left almost no margin for error. The Zircon missiles had already climbed high into the upper atmosphere. Their engines burned with incredible intensity as onboard guidance systems adjusted their flight path. Computers on the American ships instantly calculated their trajectory. Estimated impact time, less than 2 minutes. Across the Carrier Strike Group, the calm rhythm of routine operations vanished. Every crew member moved with practiced urgency, because when hypersonic weapons appear on radar, there is no time for hesitation. 7:20 hours. Aegis Combat Systems engaged the Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, USS, gravely shifted instantly into full combat mode. Its powerful Aegis combat system began processing massive streams of radar data. Dozens of antennas tracked the incoming missiles, while advanced computers calculated interception solutions. On the screen, the Zircon missiles appeared as blazing red markers streaking across the display. Their speed fluctuated: Mach 7, Mach 8, Mach 8.5. They weren't flying in straight lines either. Hypersonic glide maneuvers caused their path to shift unpredictably, making interception far more difficult. But the Aegis system had been designed for moments like this. Within seconds, it selected the best available defensive weapons. 7:28 hours. Interceptor launch interceptors. The order came calmly from the destroyer commander. On the ship's deck, the vertical launch cells suddenly erupted. Hatches snapped open. Flames burst skyward. 2 SM-6 interceptor missiles roared into the morning sky, leaving blazing trails behind them. A moment later, 2 more launched from the cruiser protecting the carrier. 4 interceptors streaked upward, racing to meet the incoming hypersonic weapons. The battle for survival had begun. 7:20 hours. The hypersonic problem. Inside the combat center, officers watched carefully. Traditional anti-ship missiles follow predictable paths, but hypersonic weapons behave differently. The Zircon missiles began descending rapidly while performing violent course corrections. Each maneuver forced the interception computers to recalculate targeting solutions. Even a tiny error could cause an interceptor to miss its target completely. Seconds ticked by. Every person in the room understood the stakes. If even one missile slipped through, the damage to the fleet could be catastrophic. 7:52 hours. First interception attempt. The first SM-6 interceptor approached its target. Guided by radar updates from the destroyer, it adjusted its trajectory several times per second. Then the radar screen flashed. A sudden burst of energy appeared on the display. A bright explosion erupted high above the ocean. Cheers briefly filled the combat center. One Zircon missile had been destroyed, but 2 more were still incoming, and they were now less than 60 seconds away. 7:21 hours. The remaining threat. The second interceptor raced toward another hypersonic missile, but this one performed a sudden maneuver. It dropped altitude dramatically and veered sideways. The interceptor overshot its target. A red warning icon appeared on the radar screen. One Zircon missile was still intact, and it was descending rapidly toward the American fleet. 7:21:15 hours. Carrier strike group prepares for impact. On the flight deck of the aircraft carrier, sailors looked skyward. They couldn't see the incoming missile. It was still too high, but radar reports were being broadcast across the fleet. Impact window, under 40 seconds. Every defensive system prepared for the final phase. Phalanx CIWS guns rotated into position. Electronic warfare units began transmitting powerful jamming signals. Decoy launchers were armed. If the missile slipped past the interceptors, this would be the fleet's last line of defense. 7:21:28 hours. Second interception. Suddenly, a second explosion appeared on radar. Another SM-6 interceptor had finally connected with its target. Fragments scattered across the upper atmosphere. Only one missile remained, but that missile had already entered the terminal attack phase, and it was now only seconds away. 7:21:40 hours. Terminal defense. The final Zircon missile dropped below the radar horizon. At that altitude, tracking became much harder, but the fleet's sensors picked it up again just moments later. Now traveling at extreme speed, the missile skimmed toward the carrier strike group. Automatic defense systems activated instantly. Phalanx guns opened fire. Thousands of rounds per minute ripped through the sky. Tracer fire created a blazing curtain of steel in the missile's path. 7:21:47 hours. The final seconds. The missile continued descending. Closer, closer. Radar alarms screamed across the ships. For a terrifying moment, it looked like the hypersonic weapon might slip through the defenses. Then suddenly, the radar screen flashed white. 7:21:49 hours. Mid-air detonation. A violent explosion erupted above the ocean surface. The final Zircon missile shattered into fragments just kilometers from the carrier group. Debris rained into the sea. Shockwaves rippled across the water. Inside the combat center, sailors stared at their screens in disbelief. Against overwhelming odds, the fleet had survived the hypersonic attack, but the confrontation was far from over. 7:23 hours. Immediate countermeasures. The strike group commander understood something critical. If the Russian ship had launched once, it could launch again. Allowing it to remain in attack range was no longer acceptable. He issued a new order: prepare counterstrike. Across the aircraft carrier, fighter pilots sprinted toward their aircraft. Weapons crews loaded long-range anti-ship missiles beneath stealth fighters. The United States Navy was about to respond. 7:28 hours, fighters launch. Steam catapults thundered across the flight deck. One by one, F-35C, Lightning II stealth fighters launched into the sky. Their engines roared as they climbed rapidly above the Atlantic. Each aircraft carried advanced long-range anti-ship missiles, LRASM. Unlike older weapons, these missiles used artificial intelligence to locate and strike naval targets even in heavily defended environments. Their target was already selected, the Russian warship that had launched the hypersonic attack, 7:35 hours. Stealth approach. Flying low across the ocean surface, the F-35 pilots advanced toward the Russian fleet. Their stealth technology minimized radar detection. Data from NATO satellites and reconnaissance aircraft guided their navigation. The pilots remained silent over radio. Every movement was calculated. Ahead of them, the Russian ship continued sailing westward, but its crew now knew something had gone wrong. Their missile attack had failed, and retaliation was coming. 7:42 hours, Russian fleet reacts. Aboard the Russian warship, radar operators detected faint signals approaching from the west. At first, the signals appeared weak, almost invisible, but advanced detection systems slowly revealed their presence. Stealth aircraft. Alarms sounded across the Russian vessel. Air defense crews rushed to their stations. Surface-to-air missiles were armed. Electronic warfare systems activated. The confrontation was escalating rapidly. 7:47 hours. Electronic warfare. Battle. The sky above the Atlantic became a battlefield of invisible signals. Russian ships transmitted powerful radar beams attempting to detect the stealth fighters. American aircraft responded with electronic countermeasures. Signals jammed, frequencies shifted, guidance systems fought to maintain accuracy. This electronic duel would determine who gained the upper hand, because whoever controlled the sensors controlled the battle.